All right, let's get into it today. I have got some designs I'm going to go through, going to give you my thoughts and opinions. Obviously, take everything here with a pinch of salt. That none of this is, why have I got my headphone? I don't need my headphone thing in, do I? I can't even hear myself. None of this is obviously authoritative in any sense. You shouldn't trust anything I say. You should take it all with a big pinch of salt and maybe sometimes even do the opposite of what I say. But this is my opinion on some of the designs that have been sent over. I'll review them, give my advice, my thoughts, and all that kind of stuff. And I hope that you get something out of it here today. So, first design up is one from Steve. I will keep an eye on the comments. So if you do have a question or you want to say something or my stream goes down or you need me to reboot something, just drop a comment wherever you're watching. The webinar room keeps going down. It's so annoying. I'll just keep refreshing it and trying to restart it. It looks right now like Facebook is the more steady option. But who knows when that might change. So yeah, okay, I'm going to crack on because I think it's important that we do so. Oh no, don't. Okay. Right. Let's go. Okay, first up is Steve. Steve was one of the first, I think, to send something in. So Steve's design here is. Let me share my screen here. Adopt a gay cat. Right here, adopt a gay cat. Or June is Adopt a Gay Cat Month. Hopefully you can see that on my screen. This was one that caught my eye. Obviously kind of a pride connection with June being Pride Month, I guess. And apparently, so I read the description down here, it says, June's Gay Pride Month and June is also Adopt a Cat Month. So Steve had the idea of putting them together and coming up with June is Adopt a Gay Cat Month, which is, I think, a nice idea. I think the design could use some work though. So my initial thoughts are, let me just refresh this because it could do with something. Here we go. So my initial thoughts are that the line, so June is Adopt a Gay Cat Month, I think is not the best way of dealing with these two topics and putting them together. So I think so. Yeah, I get your idea. So we've got Gay Pride and we've got Adopt a Cat, and I like the idea of putting them together somehow. I just think that using the June is Adopt a Gay Cat Month is overkill and unnecessary. So I think the part that's unnecessary is the June bit, because if you think about it, when you people who are going to wear this shirt, I don't know if many people would want to wear a shirt that says June on it and is about the month of June all year round. Of course, they may wear it in June, but then the rest of the year, your design on your t-shirt has a little resonance really. So I would want to get rid of the June thing, and instead I would want to concentrate on the gay cat thing, because I think that's relatively funny. The idea of gay cats and gay dogs and stuff like that is more of a goer. So I would strip out June is, and I would just go for like Adopt a Gay Cat. I just think that's funny and snappy, and it applies to Pride Month, Adopt a Cat. It still works, but it's kind of an all-round evergreen kind of approach as well. So that would be my recommendation there, is instead of going for June is, because it's kind of like telling someone June is Adopt a Gay Cat Month. It's kind of like December is whatever, or Thursday the 26th of March is National Donut Day on a t-shirt. It doesn't really work. It's not something that you see on t-shirts. What you do see is calls to action, such as adopt a, or eat a donut, or support your local whatever, or support this, or vote for this, or whatever. It's a call to action, and this line isn't a call to action, but it could be if we got rid of June is and month at the end. So I'm going to try, very risky now, and try to switch and draw kind of what I had in mind. over here. So, yeah, so we're going for adopt a gay cat, and I would go for something like this. And in fact, I found. No, I'll come back to that in a second. I would go for something like kind of this layout. So, kind of curved text at the top, and then kind of a straight text at the bottom, and then here in the middle would be your illustration. Now, I think your illustration is not. Looks a little bit like the Pink Panther to me. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I don't think that's the best way to go. It's a kind of a very clean vector layout, but to me it looks a bit like vector clip art. It doesn't look like someone's drawn it, and it doesn't look like someone's put much thought into it. So I would want to go for a more either a stylized cartoon of some kind, or a realistic kind of sketch, which we've kind of talked about before. So for example, if it was if we were going for more of a kind of realistic-y sketch, I would go for something like I think the idea of, like, you've got the right idea of kind of doing the cat here, and I like the idea of the the glasses being rainbow glasses or whatever. I think that works. I would just go for this cat would just be more like genuine sketch of a cat or something. You could even have its little paws up on the thing here if you did your text in a nice big font or something. And I think something like that is just a nice, funny design that could work all year round, has an appeal for LGBT kind of crowd and stuff like that, and just kind of works on a couple of those levels. I'll just switch back to my Chrome window so I can show you something else that I thought. So I think the artwork I think could do with work. I don't think you need this big circle behind. I also think the font you've used is not really, doesn't do anything for me, looks amateurish. And I found a good example of, if I can find it here. Here we go. I think, is this it? Yeah. So I found a good example of kind of, it just made me think of this design because this was like a recent design by Hillary White Rabbit, who's a very good t-shirt designer. You see her stuff popping up on Threadless and T-Fury and Redbubble and TeePublic all the time. So she just did this one, and I just think it's almost what I just outlined. And she's also done this thing with the rainbow thing, which works really well behind, so you can use the rainbow as an extra visual element to get the thing in. I just think something like this, it works a lot better as a t-shirt. Now, of course, Hillary has her own style, and I'm not saying you should copy her style, but she has gone for a more kind of realistic sketch. It's not, like photorealistic, but it's not a cartoony sketch as such. And she's gone for more, she's got these hands going in and stuff, which makes it a bit more abstract and a bit weirder. So I'm not saying you copy that or anything, but I think in terms of layout, it's a really nice example of what I would suggest you try to move towards, something a bit more like that. She's obviously hand-drawn this text. This isn't a font, she's hand-drawn it. But in terms of font choices, I would go for something more like a classic, Cooper Black font or some kind of block font. I think this is a bit amateurish and just doesn't fit for me, doesn't fit the tone at all. Also, if you're looking at because it's kind of appealing to LGBT and that kind of crowd, I would look at lookhuman.com because they are a very gay rights, lots of designs around gay rights and LGBT and stuff. And if you look at their stuff, you'll see, because they're in that scene a lot, they're doing a lot of stuff for that kind of demographic. It's a good place to look and see, well, how what kind of fonts are they using, what kind of colors, what kind of illustration style, what kind of layouts, and you'll find a lot of stuff here that I think really works for that kind of thing. Let's see if we can just find a couple. So this is Gay Pride shirts, so really simple, quite blocky, big fonts, very clean, sans serif fonts. Something like this one, really simple. Again, gone with the rainbow thing and the curved text around the rainbow with the straight text at the bottom. I think this would be a good place for you to look if you're doing that kind of design, and just do something that looks a bit more sketchy, looks a bit more rough around the edges, instead of this, which looks clean but doesn't look LGBTE, if that makes sense. Hope that helps you, Steve. I'll leave that one there for now, and we'll move on to the next one. This is from David. This one is Trauma Llama, and it took me a couple of seconds to get the joke or whatever, but it's targeting trauma nurses and doctors and stuff like that. So a couple of things about this one. Initial thoughts are that it's not. To me, it looks amateurish to me. I think if one of my designers or a designer I'd hired submitted this, I would. It's not terrible, it's not horrible, but it's not good enough, in my books to qualify as a design that I'd be proud of to put in my portfolio or to put on my website or something. And principally, I think the illustration is slightly amateurish. It looks to me like kind of what you would get from Fiverr or something like that. A couple of things that pinpoint this for me, because that was my initial reaction, but then I tried to figure out why that was. Things like, one thing that always gets me, or that I think makes something look a little amateurish, especially on t-shirt designs, is when the stroke of something, the line stroke is thin. So if you see here around like the eyes of the llama here are white, but they've got a black outline. The black outline is so thin, it's really, really thin, and I think that, to me, that kind of thing looks really amateurish. And the white stroke around the whole thing, the llama, the white stroke around the llama. When you look at it from here, it's like the stroke isn't thick enough to even make like a solid pixel's width on the screen. And to me, just things like that, they just kind of get at me a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe I'm being over picky, but for me, things like that are bugbears that I always want to sort out. So, if it was me, I would rethink the illustration along those lines. And just on the point of the line and the line thickness, when I was first trying to learn Illustrator and get into t-shirt design and stuff, one of the people I kind of looked to and learned from, especially like learning Adobe Illustrator and how to do vector art and stuff, was this guy called Muscaton. I think he's German or Swedish or something. I couldn't really find any of his old stuff that I used to kind of learn from. He used to have some, tutorials and stuff. But if you go on his website, it's Muscaton with a K, Musketon. You can see some of his work. It's very, very good stuff, but it didn't used to be this detailed. He used to do very simple character illustrations. But I just highlighted this one because you can see the thickness of the lines around here. You see how bold the lines are, how thick they are. And I think there's maybe a couple of examples here where he's got very thin lines and it's only like these little arrowy bits. But apart from that, like every part of the illustration, of the main illustration, is this big thick line, and it helps everything to stand out and be immediately visible. And it looks, to me, that looks professional, whereas this design looks more amateurish and looks like someone's taken some clip art and maybe smashed it together and come up with this. So I don't want to be too harsh on it because it's not terrible by any means, but I just think, for me, those are the things that let it down. And in terms of what I would do, so if we flip back to the iPad again, I'll just get this set up here. What I think the idea is good, is solid. Trauma Llama, I think it works. I wouldn't, on this example, and this is a rare case, but on this example, I wouldn't want to split the text up with trauma at the top and llama at the bottom. I think I'd go for them together. And I think if this was me and you commissioned me to create a design for this idea, I would go for, let me just get my iPad up here. I would go something like this direction with it. I would go like trauma llama, kind of underneath, maybe even kind of curved like this, and then maybe even on like a little kind of, like a little banner type of thing or something. And then I think the safest route to go with something like this would be to draw a llama. I can't really draw a llama off the top of my head. This isn't going to be very good, but you get the idea. Something like this. And I would go, by default, I think I'd go for the more kind of, again, kind of serious, realistic-y looking sketch. But with, of course, like stethoscope, with maybe lab coat or whatever, scrubs on or something like that. And I would just try to make it look kind of ridiculous in the sense that it looks like a real illustration of a llama. He just happens to have a lab coat on or whatever, and this is what he'd look like. And then you could do something like maybe in the background that somehow, I don't know, says medical stuff. Somehow. I know you've got like the, I don't even know what that thing's called, but the medical doctory hospital logo thing going on. I think something like that would be a more surefire hit, if this was going to sell. And that's just kind of my main preference. You wouldn't have to do a realistic-y llama. You could go for a more cartoony one, but I'd want my cartoony llama to be better than this one. I'd want the lines to be nice and thick. I'd want I want there to be more of a distinct character to it than I see here. And I think that's what's getting at me. A few of the little kind of things there that I think could be improved. So, hope that helps you there. I think that was David, wasn't it? Thank you for sending that one in, David. Where am I up to? Okay, over here. Next up, Diane has sent one in. This is, I think it's Bigfoot fishing, of course. Bigfoot fishing with, I can't see what kind of beer he's drinking, but it looks like Heineken or something. And he's already got a couple of fish, so he's doing well so far. Bigfoot fishing. I like the immediate thoughts were that it's a good design. We are in Facebook only now. Sorry about that, guys. And this design with Bigfoot. So yeah, what would I do with something like this? I would, I think, I'm gonna have to fire QuickTime up again to do my sketching. Now, if we crash now, that is it. That is the end. And if it's going to crash, it's going to crash now. Let me try and find this iPad again. Are we going to crash? Are we going to crash? The other Streamzilla list is on... I think I posted a link in the event page, but I've closed that down now. Or rather, it closed me down. It kicked me off. So, okay. Bigfoot. Here's what I would do with Bigfoot. I would just do more of a sketchy approach to it. In fact, it's probably going to be hard for me to sketch. It's probably better for me to show you an example. If I can find the example I wanted to show. There's a t-shirt company called Shirtman Dude. You may have heard of them. They sell on Etsy and on Amazon. Have some good selling designs. They have some Bigfoot designs like this, which I think have been pretty steady selling top Bigfoot stuff. And of course, this is a single color black on grey shirt, so there's nothing fancy about it. But I think the fact that this design has been such a good seller so consistently probably is a indicator that something about this works. And of course your design looks nicer in many ways, and there's a lot more going on. I think your design looks nicer as like a poster, but I think for a t-shirt, me personally, how I would go with a design like this, it would be something like this. So I would try to strip everything down to the basics, go with one or two colors, and just kind of sketch it out and try and take this and turn it into this style. So that means, it would be if we're going to do it on a dark shirt, then it would be, white lines or white shapes and white stuff on a black background. So you could keep the same layout, but I would try to strip everything back. For example, you've got like what looks like clip art buckets and ice buckets and bottles here. I would want to hand draw all that stuff, make it look as nice and realistic as possible. Not realistic, but if you look at this obviously doesn't look realistic, but you can tell someone sat down and drawn it in one sitting. And I think this looks a little bit like an amalgamation of different sources. And even though it's a nice design and a good concept, I would personally go this route with something like that, rather than this kind of design, if that makes sense. Because I think the use of those different vector elements and stuff and what looks like kind of clip arty elements looks a little bit amateurish to me. The moon looks like a full photo of the moon. Obviously, it's not been drawn. It's not been hand drawn and illustrated in any way. So those are the things that I try to stay away from and try to hand draw stuff, or at least take a photo, vectorize it, add some filters and some texture to it so it looks like a screen print rather than it looks like a photo that's been plonked on a t-shirt, if that makes sense. If you're just joining me here, guys, the webinar thing has crashed. We've had a bit of a nightmare with streaming and stuff today, so I've closed the webinar for now. We're just streaming on Facebook, and I'll try and send this out patched together. If we do crash again, because I don't know, I may be overloading my computer, I'll upload the replay later. So thank you guys for joining us over here. We just did a design of Diane's. We're now going to do this one of Roy's. So Roy sent one in. I'll try and get through these. We've got about 15 minutes to go, so I'll try and get through the ones I wanted to highlight before we run out of time. So this one from Roy says, pay peanuts, get monkeys. Now, Roy, I have to say, when I first looked at it, it was not immediately obvious to me what was going on in the design. So obviously when I read the title, it made sense, but for example, the peanuts here, they were not obviously peanuts to me. They looked almost like a bit of a pattern or some kind of visual element to kind of break up the text. And the monkeys as well, not immediately obvious as monkeys to me either. So I think what's good about it is the colours, two colours, red and yellow on black, looks nice. I think that you've added some texture, which is nice, a kind of distress effect, which is nice and usually makes things look a little bit more professional. But I do think we've got problems in terms of the communication of the idea in the graphic. I think if we took a step back and said, what's the joke? And obviously there's not really a strong, unique joke or original joke. What you're doing is taking a familiar phrase and you're just illustrating it. So you're not putting a twist on it in any way. You're really just illustrating a phrase that exists. It's like a proverb or whatever you might call it. Whatever, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, or stitch in time saves nine, or anything like this. You've just illustrated it. So you've not added any hook, really. You've not added any element that really transforms it and makes it truly original, I would say. So for that reason, I would want to take a step back and think, is there something about this well-known phrase that we can do to make it look, or to come at it at a different angle and do something a little bit more original with it? I don't really have anything off the top of my head apart from some ideas, like rough ideas, like for example, could you do something about monkeys asking for minimum wage, or like peanuts? What would be the minimum wage equivalent in peanuts? Because I think there's like current things of like trying to get the minimum wage up to a certain amount in the States. I don't know if it's $10 an hour or $15 or whatever, but maybe there's some kind of joke you could do about monkeys getting whatever the equivalent would be, 3 bags of peanuts or some, I don't know, or a monkey holding up a sign or something, a picketing or something like that, or even something like a lazy looking monkey. So let me try and draw what I just had in my head there for a second. There's my wife and daughter again. Something like, how would I draw this monkey? Whoa. Let's say he's like a lazy monkey, so he like looks like this. Monkeys usually do the upturned nose like that. Maybe do him with like a cigarette in his mouth, and he could have So what I'm trying to do is like a monkey that looks like in his office, and he's like kind of grumpy and stuff. Maybe has his arm up like this. That looks a bit weird, but hopefully that's kind of the point. Doesn't look too much like a monkey, so I've it's more like an ugly man in a monkey suit. But I'm thinking something like this, like a grumpy looking monkey, and then, or even angry looking, yeah, something like that. And then you could have like, what is it? Pay peanuts. Get monkeys. So I don't know. I think there'd be perhaps something like a better way you could do that, to make the point of the illustration, or do it in a different way, because I think there's not a lot to this that makes it stand out or makes it attractive as a concept. It looks a little bit basic and a little bit two-dimensional, if you get what I mean. You could make this a little bit more, I don't know. It'd be nice to get. I'm just thinking there must be some way to make him look more like he's in his cubicle or something, like a. I don't know how you do that. Maybe a little keyboard or something. But yeah, I could see it as a. I think you did. It was your design, Roy, a couple of weeks ago that we did the another day, another dung or something like that. Same kind of thing. Like I could see the concept. I could see the design as a coffee mug, or a Christmas gift for office people, and it's kind of, or the bumper sticker kind of deal of, work sucks, I hate Mondays, all that kind of scene of like office workers who are annoyed and hate work and stuff like that. I would go. I could see it working on that kind of level, but I just think your concept here, your design isn't good enough for that. Like nobody who was looking for like a funny coffee mug for their boss for Christmas or something is going to look at this and go, oh yeah, that's a funny illustration of what I had in mind. Whereas they might look at something like this and go, ha, look at that monkey, he's smoking a cigarette and he looks really lazy and annoyed. He looks just like you, Bob, my boss, or whatever. So that's kind of maybe where I'd go with something like that. Okay, we got 10 minutes. Let's try and get through these next 4 designs or something. I think I've got one from everyone who sent one in. All right, this was from Nikolai. Skip a straw, save a turtle. So obviously around the kind of environmentally friendly end of plastic straws. Now all the straws are paper. Now all the straws fall apart in my drink. Now I am thinking about buying some plastic straws from Amazon to keep in the office, so that I have some plastic straws that don't go soggy while I'm drinking my Coca-Cola. That topic is what you're talking about. And I have some advice on this one. So the illustration, I think, is not immediately clear what's going on. I don't know whether you meant to do it so that it looks like the turtle is being impaled on the straw. But that's kind of a little bit what it looks like. And if that was your intention, then I think that's a bad idea. Because it's a bit too unpleasant. If that wasn't your intention, then it looks that way a little bit, or it's at least visually confusing in that way. So I would want to fix it. I think that there's some difficulties with this topic, especially around straws, because straws are really terrible to illustrate. Like, they really don't work for like t-shirt illustrations. They're very what's the word? They're just kind of they're boring. They're just a straight stick. There's nothing there. It's like, how do you do a t-shirt that features a straw? Straws are not nice graphic things to illustrate. Drawing Bigfoot is great for a t-shirt. Drawing a straw is very difficult. Now, turtles are better, so what I would do is make more of the turtle and make less of the straw. And I don't think you really need to put the two elements together directly like you've done, because I don't think it works that well, if that makes sense. I don't really see the message. If you took away the text and you just had the graphic, doesn't make much sense to me. And if it's meant to be that the turtle is being impaled on the straw, I think that's if that is what you're trying to do, then it's, I think, a bad idea because it's too graphic and too unpleasant. And if it isn't, then obviously, like I said, it's confusing. So what I did was, or what I would do with this is just like go to Etsy and search for straw sea turtle, and you'll see, of course, you've got a lot of designs that have the same exact phrase: skip a straw, save a turtle. It's hard to tell what is selling on Etsy. You can search by most recent, and that will usually show stuff that's been relisted. So if you see anything popping up again and again on Etsy, I don't know whether we can see if there's, I think is that a sponsored one? Yeah, that's a sponsored one. But you can certainly see there's a lot of the same concepts, and they've all gone down the same. Oh, certainly they've the same kind of idea of having the illustration in the middle and the text around it in a circle kind of shape. So I think there's what you want to do is find a design that fits the demographic, but also is different enough from what's already out there to stand out and be original. So I would say it's always sensible, if you're doing a phrase that already exists, or you're doing something for a demographic that clearly is already working and already selling, then it always makes sense to go and look to familiarize yourself with what people are looking at. So I would say that there's some lessons you can take from this. For example, a lot of the designs seem to be what I would call kind of lo-fi, so they're not too professional looking. A lot of them are single color designs on shirts, which obviously kind of works. They seem to be selling. This kind of thing with a kind of sketchy sunburst and the text inside. Some of them have kind of a hand-drawn font or something. So those are the kind of things I'd be taking on board and thinking, okay, that may be more the direction of travel. It needs to look something like that. It needs to have kind of a visual. It needs to visually reflect some of that style. And yours doesn't look anything like that. It looks like a cartoony kind of illustration. So I'd be thinking about that. I'd be certainly rethinking my font usage, and honestly, I'd be rethinking the illustration. So my problem is I don't really have advice as to where you go with the illustration, because there's so many. It seems like everyone does the same thing. It's just a turtle and then the text, and your turtle can be a cartoon turtle or a more realistic turtle, but it's going to be a turtle in the middle of a circle, and the text is going to be around the turtle. So I don't know. I would personally, I wouldn't go after a phrase that was as saturated as this anyway. So I would probably take a step back and think, is there some way we could look at this from a different angle? Is there somehow we can rephrase it or phrase it differently, or something we can do that makes a more unique approach to this concept and this topic? And I would, for example, look at things like the T-shirt ideas cheat sheet and see if there's any ideas there that you could come up with something off the back of that, or you could, I don't know. But I think things like, if you think about who's buying this, I don't want to be too like broad brushstrokes or anything, but I think mainly it's going to be like your teenage girls, environmentally friendly, climate change concerned, teenagers and young girls, and I don't know, there's a couple of brands that are I can't remember the names, but the kind of brands that like, oh, we plant a tree for every t-shirt, or we clean up some ocean for every t-shirt you buy, or something like that. But those kind of illustrations are very simple, very lo-fi, not complicated, and I think if you're going after that demographic, you want to do something that works on that front, and that means illustrations that are clear, simple, not complicated, not controversial, not violent or graphic or anything like that. For example, you wouldn't want to draw a turtle choking on a straw or anything like that. You would want to draw a happy turtle or a natural, realistic style of turtle or something. I think that I'm beginning to blather on a bit, so I'm going to leave that one there, Nikolai. We've got a couple to get through here. So Amit has sent in this one. Zillis just said less straws, more turtles. Very nice. Simple approach to the same topic. Taken, of course, from the T-shirt ideas cheat sheet, which is right there on my wall, but you can't see it. Hold on. It's right there on my wall. Now you can see it. Okay. What have I done to my webcam? I've messed it up. Let's leave it. No, come on, sort it out. Oh, man. Okay, that'll do. Amit, I love squishies and slime all the time. Amit, this looks, to me, it looks a mess. It looks like you've taken vector stuff from all kinds of things and put them together. And as I seem to be repeating quite a lot, I think that's a big giveaway of an amateur design. Sit down and design it in one fell swoop. Don't take bits from here, bits from there. Sit down and draw something. What do you want to say? What do you want to communicate? Get it down in one concept, in one sketch, in one graphic, and don't be, just pulling in words and phrases and trying to do something. Now, of course, pinch of salt and, don't take everything I say. This is obviously a shirt, I think, if I'm not wrong, this is a shirt targeting the demographic of 50-year-old divorced men. No, I mean kids, young girls, 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds who like slime and squishies. I know that demographic because I have one of those people living in my house. And to be honest, if she saw it, she'd probably be like, yeah, I love it, and she might buy it. But for my money, it looks amateurish because it looks like you've just tried to fill the canvas and you've pulled in loads of various elements and it's not a coherent whole. I also wonder whether we could do something and make it look nicer by just kind of getting rid of some of the text. So you've got I love squishies and slime all the time. Why not just go for squishies and slime all the time? That for me is a nicer phrase and would make for a nicer graphic. I think I don't know whether it's easy or hard to combine squishies and slime because they're two different concepts. I would be tempted maybe to go for more of a text because it's kind of a phrase-based design. Maybe go for something more more of a text-based design, like just for example. I would want to try and do something kind of circular or something, but you could go like school wishies. And slime. All the time. And then you could have some stars up here and whatever. And rather than like having some big, illustration elements, I would just kind of maybe do more illustration on the text. So your squishy text would look like a squishy, and your slime could look like slime. And maybe just some little stars and rainbows or whatever to just kind of tie the whole thing together. But I think something like that would probably be where I'd go with a design like that. So hope that helps you, Amit. Warren has sent through a few designs that look... Oh no, where are they? Over here, I think. Okay, let me try and pull these up for Warren. Sorry about this, guys. 1 second. So I'll just pick one of these designs, Warren, but they're all on the same subject, which is something I'm not familiar with, but I think it's a nuclear missile test or a nuclear missile a nuclear missile that was something to do with Germany, but was made in the States or something. I don't know. My thoughts on this are pretty simple, and if you've seen maybe last week's or the week before's session, you'll see that I addressed a couple of kind of space designs, and what I said was that I would go for something like a vintage design for anything like this, because it just seems so popular, so what's the word, native, or it just fits really well for these kind of topics. So I would, if you've got something like this, where did that thing go? There we go. So if you've got something that's kind of around missiles or military or space, I would look to try and create something that looks like a designed military or space badge or patch or uniform thing, or insignia, whatever. And particularly this kind of vintagey look, I think is very popular, but it doesn't have to be that style. It could be something like this. It tends to be, a badge, a circle, a square, a triangle in a vintage style. And I think that would be a way to go with something like this. I think yours looks very much like you've pulled a photo of the missile and then you've started typing out some text with very little thought of how the whole thing fits together and works at all. I don't really know if there's a message or a point behind the design in terms of who's going to buy it, who's going to wear it. Are they sending a message? Are they saying something? Or are they just saying, I know and appreciate this nuclear missile and I'm into nuclear missiles and military history or something? If they are into military history and they want to show their appreciation for this particular missile, I think they would prefer a design that was designed and looked something like, this kind of thing or this kind of thing, and it was like a badge or an insignia, and the text all tied together and it all worked together as a nice graphic. So I would take those kind of approaches. You could have your rocket here, you could have your text up here and around the sides and shaped and limit your color usage and stuff. And I just think that would be the way to go with any design like that. Personally, that's where I'd take it. Okay, we're over time, but I got two more I want to just do quickly. This is from Dom, I think. This is my drone flying shirt. I struggled with this one, Dom, because of course it's a drone. It says this is my drone flying shirt. It's simple. It works. I think perhaps the problem is the design is a little bit too basic. And I know if you look at like drone flying shirts on Amazon, you'll find a lot of very simple designs, one color designs, picture of a drone, simple text. I just wonder whether there's a way to take it and make it a little bit more interesting. I think because the drone graphic you've got is a kind of what would you call it, symmetrical bird's eye view of the drone. It doesn't have a lot of dynamism as a graphic. The text is the same size all the way around. It's very symmetrical. It's not very visually interesting, and I wonder whether anyone scrolling past it would give it a second look on that basis. So I wonder whether you could do something to make it look a little bit more dynamic, and maybe something like, I don't really know what drones look like, but I'm assuming they have their kind of propellers up here. But if you could kind of draw it, or at least try to represent it in some kind of 3D thing where it kind of looks like it's coming at you, it's kind of flying towards you or something, and it just has a bit more dynamism about it. For example, if you Google like vectors, I'm sure if you looked for like vector drone, you probably find some examples of what I'm talking about, but or even if you looked for like vector aircraft, you'll see like, graphics of aircraft that are coming towards you, or like 3D versions or whatever. So I wonder whether you could do something that looks a bit more like that, and then you could kind of you could have your text a little bit up at the top, and then the text beneath could be more kind of dynamic. Maybe even, I wonder whether you need drone in the text, whether you could do something just around, this is my flying shirt, or this is my, I don't really know what language or vocabulary drone flyers use, but whether they have something that would be a bit more customized than this is my drone flying shirt. I don't know. I think there's maybe room for maneuver there. You could have some kind of clouds going on in the background. You could have a line or two just kind of tying the thing together. But I just think there's more you could do to make the design pop, because it's not really that attention grabbing when you first look at it. Okay, David M. This is the last one I think we'll do. So Miami Beach, Florida, and a dolphin with a surfboard and palm tree in the background. I mean, at first glance, it's hard to like criticize a design like this, because you could certainly see it on, the Beach Shack in Miami, and they probably sell hundreds a day of a design like this, on the Beach Shack, because it's simple and people just like it. But personally, I think there's not much to like in that the graphic looks very simplistic and a little bit Fiverr-y again, like kind of amateur vector artwork. And what I would really do with a design like this is, again, head over somewhere to like Amazon or Etsy and search for Miami Beach shirt and see what kind of things people go after. So you can see one there that's kind of a retro vibe. This kind of thing of like, retro-y beach vibe. Maybe Amazon is a better one for this. Miami Beach shirt. I don't want to deliver to the United Kingdom because I want to see merch shirts. So I'm going to say that I live in Beverly Hills. Okay, so this is kind of what I mean. Look at the colours that are going on here. Pinks and blues, retro, Miami Vice, neon-y kind of approach. Those are all the ones that kind of seem to be towards the top, and they kind of run through a lot of these designs. So if I was doing a design for Miami Beach, not that I would, because I think it's a very broad topic and doesn't leave a lot of room for something original. Or, I mean, you can do an original take on it, but I think it's going to be hard to get a design like that seen. But I would be thinking, okay, what is the Miami Beach t-shirt scene like? What do people look for when they think of Miami Beach? What are the colors? What are the styles? What are the aesthetics of that kind of thing? And you'll see some of these designs, the ones that are selling, the ones towards the top, seem to be more that kind of way. With the neon, with the similar kind of colors, the Miami Vice vibe, the pink and the blue. So that would be kind of my approach if I was doing a design for Miami Beach. But like I say, it's not typically what I would do. Now, if you're trying to target like kids or something, then fine. But again, maybe you could make it. You could use similar colors over here. For me, there's a bit too much going on. Again, I'm kind of saying all this with like pinch of salt, because I think it probably would sell if it got in front of a parent who was looking for a Miami Beach kids shirt. But I just think to me, I wouldn't buy it. I would be looking for, because for example, here's a story. I was in Seattle and Las Vegas like a couple of weeks ago, and trying to look for some souvenirs to take home. And you know what it's like in the airport and stuff. You've got all the same kind of crappy souvenir stuff. And one of the things I picked up from Seattle, not this time, but the previous time, was in Seattle Airport. They've got a Sub Pop record store, and they have stuff in there that was like a map of Seattle drawn in a kind of sketchy, lo-fi Seattle-y vibe, and little illustration of like whatever it is, the waterfall up here and the lake here and this, that, and the other. And it was in a Seattle-y vibe, if that makes sense. And for example, in Las Vegas, I remember in one of the Starbucks, they have like souvenir Starbucks mugs, and it's Las Vegas. It's a Las Vegas Starbucks mug, but it's drawn in a very Las Vegas-y style. And trying to think of how I would describe that vibe. But anyway, it looks Las Vegas-y. So, for example, this design, like, what's to stop you putting, whatever it is, La Jolla, California beach on the top of it? Is there anything that makes it Miami that couldn't be used in any other beach anywhere else around the world. And there's nothing in the design that says Miami. It's just generic beach graphic. So will it sell? Yes. Will it ever be something that really reaches incredible heights and does good stuff and is going to sell in like high-end gift stores in Miami? Doubtful. And for that, I think you need to look at things like colors and graphics and aesthetics that are to do with the place and to do with the location. So for me, that would be this kind of thing, this kind of font, this kind of colors. And you could do a kid's design that's that way inclined. You would just need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and work on that kind of thing. So, all right, that was the last one I had lined up. So we ran over because we had all kinds of technical issues. But thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you got some value out of this. I'll try to edit together the bits and pieces that we did get and put together something that kind of works as a coherent whole and send that out tomorrow via email. If you do want to submit something for the next couple of weeks, we've got what have we got? 2 more? What week are we in now? Okay, so we've got next week and the week after. And then after that, I'm away on holiday for a couple of weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, we'll definitely do it again. I'll try and sort out any technical issues for next time. But we'll do it again next week and the week after. So if you've got some designs you want to submit, just email michael@michaelessick.com. Please email me 3 links so that I've got some stuff to choose from, because oftentimes I struggle, to have anything to say about certain designs, but there'll usually be one of the 3 that I can go, oh, okay, there's something I can say about that. So, if you want to submit stuff, you can email me today. You can email me anytime between now and Tuesday, and then I'll use you for the next round. I think that's really all there is to really say. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Zilis. Thank you, Gary. The only other thing is next week I'm going to be pushing an update to artwork automation. I'll be sharing more about that next week. If you haven't already engaged with artwork automation, if you haven't heard of it before, maybe you've never even heard me say it, if you go to michaelessick.com, this is, if you're interested in it, artwork automation is a tool and a solution to help you generate all the images you need for your business. So mock-ups, artwork, resizing and everything. If you're looking for a solution to that and you're sick of manually doing things, head over to michaelessick.com/classes, click on the more information thing about artwork automation, put your name and your email address in there, and that just guarantees that you will get updates when I push the updates next week, to let you know how you can get in on that. Okay, I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your designs, everyone who submitted something, and we'll be back same time next week, hopefully with less technical issues. All right, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day. See you later. Bye-bye.